Okay, looks like we're good. All right. So, um, since this is on Facebook that we're looking at, one thing Facebook allows you to do is click on it and it'll stop. So, yay! Uh, you can turn it right off. I don't think Twitter allows you to do that. Maybe they do. Way back in the early days of browsers, I mean, and we're talking Netscape 5, Internet Explorer 6 or 7. There was up by this refresh button. There was also an X that you could click the X and the animated GIFs would stop. But you can just let them go on and on and on. And there's also another control of that we're going to see later. But a little bit of history behind that. GIFs, and some people call them GIFs. Maybe you're in that category of people. I don't really care. If you want to fight me afterwards about how it's pronounced, go for it. But I think probably from a purist perspective, it really is pronounced GIF, because that's what the creator of it says it's pronounced as. And the reason is because when they had a slogan, it was developed in CompuServe, or at CompuServe in 1987, hence the 87A designation for the first iteration of it, and then 2 years later the 89A format. But they had a slogan, choosy developers choose GIF images, and the slogan for the peanut butter, choosy, was it mothers? Choosy mothers choose GIF. Okay, so that's how it came to be pronounced, GIF. And people like me look at the GIF and go, well, rules of the English language dictate when a G is first, like the word gate, it's a hard G. Well, then you've got gerrymander and you have other, so there's exceptions. So you're going to have a group that's never going to resolve this. And so I'm going to pronounce it GIF, and if that offends you, I apologize in advance, but I'm not going to change my ways. So what are they? GIF stands for Graphics Interchange Format, and they're limited to 256 colors per block, and that doesn't mean per image. And so you can actually have, and this was surprising to me, you can actually have a GIF image that has way more than 256 colors in it. I've got an example. If I remember to show it later on, it's got nearly 2,000 colors in it. And it looks pretty cool. I didn't create it, but it works well. But the limitation of 256 means it doesn't work very well for photos. Some photos it doesn't work too badly with, but it works nicely with line art, of course, and things like what I work with, math equations. Generally it's black and white, so GIFs, 256 color limitation is not really a limitation at all. Anything with well-defined edges rather than gradients, it's going to work well. So how does it create animation? The GIF format has always allowed multiple images to be stacked within a single file. That was the 87 version. The 89 version added the capability to transition from one to the next, and also to provide instructions of when to display the next one. So that brought in the animation, GIF 89A. And so that's all it is and if I can, let me see, get this layers panel a little bit higher. You can see that this particular, that's an animated GIF right there, and you can see it's comprised of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. So that's all it is. It's a single file, 400 pixels square, and it's got 5 layers in it, a background layer and 4 transparent layers containing text. So how does it animate? Well, the first thing I need to do is turn on my timeline, and that's up in the Windows menu, down alphabetically, timelines near the bottom. So I need to turn on my timeline. And this is a dual purpose panel. If you're working with video in Photoshop, it's going to be your video timeline. If you're working with animation, it's going to be your animation timeline. And Photoshop is smart enough to know if you've got a video file open, it's a video timeline. If you've got a GIF open, it's an animation timeline. So you can see the 4 frames right there at the bottom. You can't see them in great detail, but you can see that there are 4 of them there. And what you probably can't see, because it's so tiny, is below that there's a number. On the first one, second one, third one is 0.5, and the last one says 1. So the time for each of those frames to be displayed is ½ a second for the first 3 and 1 second for the 4th one. And so when I run the animation, that's what it looks like. And the other control, I mentioned when I had the Facebook page open that there are controls over how off or not, well, yeah, how often and how long the animation loops. You can control that in Facebook right in that spot right there in the very lower left of your timeline. And if you can't read the options there, it says loop once, so it's just going to play once and quit. The next one says 3 times, forever, and then other. And if you click other, you can specify as many times as you want. Play 100 times, and then it'll quit. It'll count them 100 times and quit. So that's all there is to it. And this is actually a PSD. Let me tell you why I saved the PSD. On the files I'm using are included at that URL there. If you didn't download them ahead of time, you can go to the short URL bit.ly and then AAUG 716. Yeah, she's got them on a flash drive as well. I didn't put the PSD of this one on the Dropbox shared folder just because I wanted to talk about it. But the reason it's good to save it as a PSD is because when you save this as a GIF, it'll save, and all the animation properties will go with it, and everything will go with it except the transparency over here won't go with it. And if you have any adjustment layers, like right now we don't really need any adjustment layers, but if we were working with a photograph, we might add an adjustment layer to adjust the contrast or something like that. That adjustment layer is going to be compressed and merged down into the layer beneath when you save it as GIF. And so if you want the ability later on to edit the entire thing rather than just bits and pieces here, good example would be this right here is still a that's a vector-based layer. Okay, but when I not compress it, but when I save it as a GIF, it's going to rasterize it, and so those are not vector layers anymore. You can't edit that text anymore in Photoshop. So if I decide, or if I make a spelling error, or if I decide I want to change a word or something, I'll have to change the whole layer. And so it's good to save the PSD of that, and that way you've got still you retain control over that. Let me point out one other thing, and that is each of these layers. Notice when I clicked on the first frame over there, the first frame is selected, so all we see is the background and the word this. These 4 layers, or 5 layers on the right, the number of layers didn't change. Your image has 5 layers in it, no matter whether you're looking at frame 1 or frame 3 or which frame it is. But notice the visibility is turned off for the ones that aren't displayed. So that's the only difference in these frames, is that the visibility is turned on for the ones you want to display for that frame. Now to save this, I can go to File, Save As, and save it as a GIF, but if I do that, it's going to save it as just a regular old flat single layer non-animated GIF. In order to save it as an animation, you need to go to Export, there's Export, Export to Web, Save for Web. I use the shortcut key, Control-Alt-Shift-S, so you'll never see me go to this file menu again for this, but I wanted to show you where it was. Save for Web, and that bothers me, the word legacy in there. I'm using the latest in the CC here. It's this 2015.5, I think is the number of it now. And they have a bug in that. Anybody use this 2015.5? Yeah. Well, when I first started it after updating it, I get this error. It says you need to reinstall this. It's error number 6. And so I reinstalled it. Very dutifully raised my hand and says, okay, I'll do what you say, and I reinstalled it. And it still gave me the error. You need to reinstall this, error number 6. So I naturally do the next thing. I Google it. Error number 6, Photoshop 2015.5. And it says, well, this is a bug, and for now, just open it in administrator mode. So I'm open in administrator mode because if I don't, but that means I can't double-click images in File Explorer and have them open up in Photoshop. It broke that. So I'm hoping they'll come out with 0.6.
Really? As far as, do you know the oldest version of Photoshop where you can create the animations?
Yeah, CS6 extended. CS6 regular won't do it. CS6 extended or later will. And I can, in the post session write-up, I'll give you a link to an article on Macworld from Lisa Snyder that really covers this pretty succinctly. And that's a smaller version of her section in the Missing Manual book, Photoshop CC, the Missing Manual. There's a fuller explanation of it in there, and she covers all of this. Okay, so save for web, and then you get this. There's options up here, but I like to keep it on 4 so I can see the different choices. And I'm going to go through this in detail later on. So right now, all I'm going to do is say you need to choose one of the GIF selections. I've already saved 2 special ones called animated GIF. You're not going to have that because those are ones that I saved myself. And then click Save is the way to do it. But you notice another thing too, you have the capability down here again to change the looping. So if you changed your mind, or if you forgot, or whatever, you have a second opportunity there to do it. So I'm going to just back out of that, and we're going to go to this one here. Now this is called Mersadori. If you're looking at the files that I included, MIRSADHR. And this was a contest from some class. I don't know. I Google animated GIFs, and this is one of the ones that came up. And it shows some of the things that I wanted to point out. But this, we can see also, there's 3 frames, there's 3 layers, and you can see as I move to the next frame, that only layer 2 now is visible. Move to layer 3, then only layer 3 is frame 3, layer 3 is visible. So we're going to do something with this one. We're going to edit this. Let's see what it looks like when it's animated, though. 32 teams, 12 stadiums, 1 champ. So we want to make a change to this, and for frame 3, what I want to do, I'm going to zoom in. Control 0 to zoom it to the max. I want to make that 1 a little more pronounced, so I'm going to put a bigger 1 on there. And for my purposes, I want Berlin Sans font, just because I've already done this ahead of time and I know which one works for my purposes. And I'm going to leave that 1 right there because it'll help me to get the right position. So I want that 1 to really stand out. I could change the color, but I'm going to just leave it. 1. Okay, here we go. Now click there and V and move it down. And I didn't, let's move it up here. There we go. All right. Well, I need to change the size. So let's go back in there. And I want it 128 point. Oops. 128. And what else do I want? Not 90%, 125% horizontal size. There we go. That's perfect. That one really stands out, and that's gonna look nice. So the reason I kept that one there is I want it to be superimposed in the same position as the old one was. And so now, well, I could go to that layer and just use my this thing here, the spot healing, and wipe it out. But you see, if I just merge down, it's going to override it anyway. So Control E to merge down, and there we go. So now I've got a nice little one. So just an example of how you can edit animated GIFs. And again, when I save that, well, it doesn't need to be saved. It's I was going to say when I save it, that's not going to be a vector layer anymore, but it already isn't, because when I merged it down, it rasterized it. So if I want to change that, I'll have to delete it and do it all over again. All right, so now we want to do one more thing, though. I'm thinking it would be really cool if it said 32 teams, 12 stadiums, 1 champ, and 1 king. 1 king. I mean, there's only 1 king. Yeah, so I'm going to click and drag it over to there and drag it down and move it into position. And you see that's layer 4, but it's superimposed over those others. So remember, all a frame is, you just tell it which layers you want visible. So I'm going to deselect that from the other. Okay, they're already deselected. And so now I need to put that, I need to add a frame is what I need to do. So I'm going to duplicate frame 3, and that button right there next to the trash can is what's going to do that. Duplicate selected frames is what it says, in case you can't read that. Okay, so it duplicated that frame. Now all I need to do is change my visibility and put the king right in there. And we need to add some text. I still like that Berlin Sands there, but 128 point might be too much. Need to go to black, though. It's probably an easier way to go to black, but this is quick for me. 1, and let's go down to 64 point. 64, oops, okay, 48. King. There we go. Click, move it down into position. Perfect. It's already set for 1 second because when we duplicated that layer, and I don't need to merge that down. I'm going to leave it just like that and then save it as a PSD, and then if I want to change 1 king, I can later on. So there we go. That's how it looks now. Except, whoa, what do you see wrong? Yeah, all right, change my visibility. There we go. Then I got to turn it back on here. There we go. 1 champ, 1 king. Okay. So I can see some use for this besides those annoying cats on a surfboard. If maybe I have a site that advertises an animated, or not an animated, and an accessible website training and competition. Maybe there's one of those that exists. I might want one of these over in the sidebar to just kind of fade the different timelines in, like September 1st, register, and then hold that for like 5 seconds, and then ease that one out, and then competition begins, whatever, and then ease that one out and says the prize is a brand new Lexus, which is not true. But you see, you could do that, and hopefully you wouldn't make it very annoying at all. In fact, that's not a bad lead-in to this next one, because this one, welcome to BIP, I think, yep. And this is in the shared folder. Welcome to BIP Slider NM3 is the name of this one. Well, There we go. Now this one, I got to say I was very impressed with. First of all, let me tell you this. It has 241 frames. 241 frames. Yet the size of it is only 153K. So this has like zero overhead. If you're on a 2400 baud modem watching your web, this is still going to download in a matter of seconds. So, and this, I wouldn't mind this popping up on a website that I went to, because let me play it for you. I don't know how long it takes, but I'll just play it. It is so subtle, and it's not annoying at all, I don't think. I mean, of course, what's annoying is a matter of opinion anyway, but I don't at all find this to be annoying. You see how things are just fading in there on the right. And I don't know if you noticed, but those top 3 dots on BIP, that's the first animation. Then on the order, view, and the by, the arrows come, and then at the bottom it says click here. So nicely done. I'd give that designer a round of applause.
But it's not interesting.
Well, but okay, but that's point well taken. But you're speaking from a graphic artist perspective, and you could make it better. I'm speaking from the perspective of someone that sees these annoying ones on the web and go, oh, this is so much better than that. And you could even take the better one and make it better than it is now. Okay. No argument there at all.
And for no real significant increase in image size, you can have something that has some movement in it that's going to catch people's eye that might otherwise ignore something totally static.
Really, one of the main objections I have to these things anyway is that if I'm reading a web page, I don't want something over here on the right distracting my attention from the article. I want either some way to stop the animation or for it not to be there, or whatever. And then it seems to be so popular now, all these blogs have, you start to read and you get about halfway in the first paragraph and boom, this subscription thing comes right, and it's like a fly-in, and then you got to click to dismiss that thing. It's more annoying than these, I think. But yeah, this wouldn't bother me. I'm going to go ahead and stop the animation just because the stuff on the bottom is annoying me. This, I didn't see the original PSD on this, so I don't know how many original layers it had. I mean, it has layer upon layer now, but the transition from one layer to the next, like right now, it looks like we're in the area where it's fading that in. And if I click to the next one, it's going to be a little darker and a little darker and a little darker. So from no second line to full black second line now is probably 12 frames or so. And so to get from no second line to a black second line, you use what's called tweening, and that's this icon there that I'm pointing to on the bottom, and it says tweens animation frames. And if you're into Flash, which now has a different name, whatever, but you know the word tween already. But if you don't know the word tween, it just comes from between, and so you want to put stuff between this, and you want that stuff in between to be a nice transition. And so that's all a tween is. And so we're going to do that on the next, or maybe not the next one, but we're going to do some tweening, and you'll see how it operates.
Bob, with this one, as I was wondering how that worked, the tweening makes sense to me. I've done Flash before. But this, you would start, for example, with no second line and then a black, the final version of the second line?
Well, let me go back to our original example, and we'll do that. So on this one, we've got no word is, and on frame 2, we've got the full word is. So I'm going to tween from 1 to 2. So I'll put my cursor on 1, or not cursor, but I'll select frame 1, and then I'll click the tween thing. And so here's my options. I want to tween with next frame. See, I could have done it in reverse. Uh, so I want to tween with the next frame, all layers, and there's your options there. I'm not even going to go through those, so I think you should just have them all checked anyway. If you want to know what those are, read it in the Missing Manual book, Lisa Snyder. Buy her book. She's got another one coming out, by the way. What is it? Photoshop and Lightroom, not for dummies. It's part of the Adobe. It's an official Adobe book. Yeah, it's a classroom. It's like, you know, you got to take those wheels that you used to use for your luggage to get it on the airplane. But anyway, you can pre-order it on Amazon right now. She's got to write the last chapter this week, and then it's done. So I want to tween with the next frame. I can tell it how many frames to add. In this case, the default was 5. I'm going to put 12 because 12 just seems to work pretty well. 10, if you animate them 1/10 of a second, 10's a nice round number because that's 1 second to get from one frame to the next, but I'm still going to go 12. And then click OK, and then you see what happened. Boom, it just does it. And then as I click on the succeeding frames, you see that just eases right in there in a nice fade. And it defaults to whatever the time delay was of the first frame. So that's the only way it knows to do it. So that one, I'm going to go back and change those all to 1/10 of a second so the animation doesn't take too long. But this is what it looks like now. Okay. Pretty simple. And like anything, the more you play with it, the more time you waste because you go, oh, that was cool, I'm going to try something else. Yeah. But, yeah. Photoshop's good for that. The only thing I'm an expert in Photoshop on is wasting time. Okay, if you're following along with the files, I want to go to the Lake Tahoe Shore group. That's a folder. It's got some files in there. And there's a series of images in that folder. And so you can create an animation just from a series of images. You go, well, okay, well, why in the world would I ever have a series of images that would nicely go into an animation? Well, you know, recent versions of phones and phone software have burst mode. You ever accidentally push your thumb on the camera button too long and you hear this go, and you go, how'd that happen? Well, it's rapid fire photos is what it is. And then you go back in and look at them, and you'll see this circled 12 in the upper left corner because there's 12 photos in that burst. Well, that's where this one came from. And to get them into the Photoshop, into animation, you need to go to File, Scripts, and then load files into Stack. So I'll do that. And you've got some choices here, but since the files are already in a folder, I'm going to choose Folder, Use Files or Use Folder. I'll browse, and let's see here. Bob downloads right here, Lake Tahoe Shore. And in a matter of seconds, they'll appear, and there they are. And you see they're in order here, numerical order. I don't know how many there are, a couple dozen. 98 through 45. Wow, there must be 48 of them. 48 of them. 40. Okay, something like that, 40 plus. And you can do this, attempt to automatically align source images. It's going to take longer to get them in, obviously, because it's going to align them, but I'm not going to do that. Create smart object after loading layers. You can if you're going to need a smart object, but we're not going to need it, so I'm going to just click OK. And it still takes some time. You see they're all loading in there, but it doesn't take much time. 31, 30, 29, 28. It's got to get to 88 or 98. Yeah, 98. 89, 98. 3, 2, 1, 0. There we go. So we're done. But what do you see? You see a bunch of layers and no animation. Well, we got to tell it that we want it to be an animation. So far, all we've told it to do is load those photos as layers, and it doesn't know what we want to do with it yet. So this option here in the timeline, you have two choices here. I can create a video timeline, or I can create frame animation, and since we're doing frame animations, that's what I'm going to use. So create frame animation, and there we get one frame, which is normal. But there's a menu option. Now we could do, you guys know because I told you this already, that each successive frame is just a matter of choosing which layers you want to be visible in that frame. So we could make duplicates of it 47 times by clicking that icon, and then go back in here and uncheck all the ones except the one we want, and we could make an animation that way. But Photoshop gives you a nice, easier way to do it than that. Make frames from layers. Perfect. Exactly what we need to do. Make frames from layers. So I'll do that, and boom, we got them. 47 of them. And it selected the proper visibility. See, that one is selected, and now go to frame 2, and now only that one is selected. Since there's no transparency here, it wouldn't matter if that one and all the ones below it were selected. Absolutely wouldn't matter. But I think from a purist point of view, it's nicer to have only the one. But you notice they're backwards. The first one was 9045. The next frame is 9044. The next one's 9043. But when you see this animation, you can't tell it's backwards, can you? So I'm going to leave it. I can't tell. You notice one thing, though. It defaulted to 0 seconds, and I don't know what 0 seconds really is. Probably 100th of a second. I don't know. It's too short to show up on there. Let me see. You click Other, and it still says 0 seconds. So I think immediate. As soon as it displays it, it immediately goes to the next one. So one thing you can do, I think that was too fast, actually. That looked unnatural when I animated that. So I can shift-click. The last frame 47, was selected. So I'm going to shift-click frame 1. So now they're all selected. And I'm going to choose 1/10 of a second and see how that looks. That looks a lot better, I think. And you can fiddle with it however you want. And right now, you notice our looping is set to only once. And we can change that. And let's just change it to 3. Just because we haven't used 3 yet. Okay, so we're ready to save it. However, notice one thing. Probably can't see it because it's so tiny. The size of it is 1000 by 675 pixels. So that may matter. We'll see about that. So I'm going to go Control-Alt-Shift-S to get to my Save for Web. And I just like to see the whole thing in there, so I'm going to go down here to my Zoom and go Fit in View. So now I can see it. And all those are set to JPEGs. I told you earlier I had 2 presets for animated GIFs. I'm going to choose the first one, and then I'll tell you what all of those are set. When we saw this earlier, I said we're going to go to it in more detail. Well, now's the time we're going to do that. You've got your choice of formats here, and clearly the one on the top is the one we want, GIF. 256 colors, although you might want to use one of these other options because you can see, or maybe not, but this one that I have selected here, 256 colors, 0 dither, selective palette, it's 11.97 meg is this. So if you're going to pass it on a flash drive, if you're only looking at it yourself, I mean, you don't care what size it is. If you're uploading it to Facebook, you probably don't care what size it is either. Who cares? It's on their server. But probably is a good idea to lower that in some way. And size is one really good way to do that. So I think we're going to lower the size of this. But top down, selective, perceptual, adaptive, restrictive, I'm not even going to guess at what those mean. I don't know right now, but I have tried them all. And for my purposes, the choice of perceptual, selective, adaptive, or restrictive. Selective seems to work the best. And what these are, it's a different color scheme. Because we started out, it was a photo. It was 16 million colors in that photo. And so now you're telling Photoshop to choose 256 colors that it thinks is going to work best. And so all these options here is just different selection algorithms to choose the colors in that image. And you see that one was really terrible. So like I said, I've been through them all, and for the ones that I've been working with, selective tends to work the best for me. You can decide for yourself. Now, dither, who can describe in 25 words or less what dither is? And this it's not a quiz. I mean, I just want somebody to do it better than I could. Go ahead. Yeah, so
It kind of goes between two existing colors that are next to each other.
yeah, so instead of having sharp color next to each other, for some purposes it looks better if you could blend that somehow, but you can't blend it with colors because you're limited to 256. And so a dither uses those colors, but it puts in between colors, between this one and this one in the middle. So yeah, I gave more than 25 words. Y'all did better than I did. See, I told you. But notice what dither does to, and you got three choices of dither: diffusion, pattern, and noise. And once again, my opinion, diffusion is always the one to use. But we're going to notice the size, the impact of this on the size. 11.97 meg, and if I go to diffusion dither, let's see here, 13.98. So it increased by 2 meg. So for this particular one, when we looked at that, it looked fine. So, well, hold off on that. When we looked at it, it was 16 million colors. Let's preview it in the browser and see what it looks like with no dither. And that's what the lower left is for. And Photoshop doesn't find the browsers on your computer unless you tell it to. So you can click the drop-down box and you can go edit list, and then you can tell it to find the ones that are on your computer. If I go edit list, find all, and it'll find them in just like a second. It found all three that I've got on mine. I don't have Safari on my computer, and then you can tell it whichever one you want default. Firefox is the one I've got default. So I'm going to say preview, and then it'll bring it up in Firefox. Not just the image, but also a summary beneath it. I'll show you the summary here in a minute. But that doesn't look bad. I think the animation's about right, a tenth of a second, and the 256 colors are chosen well, and there's no dither in that. We'll see if the dither looks better, but there's the summary. I said there's a summary. So anyway, just some details. And I'm going to leave that there because I want to compare that with one with dither, diffusion dither. And I'm going to go preview. I bet there's going to be very little that you can tell. And after that stops, we'll switch back and forth. Yeah, okay. I couldn't tell. See? I can tell a little bit in the shadow on that rock in the right. This was no dither right there. This is dither. No dither, dither. And you can tell right here too. There's less detail in that part of the little pond. Okay, that's no dither. See, and that's where you can't see the detail. Yeah, I can just refresh it.
I'll do it with the other one.
Okay.
That GIF is meant to that size, right?
It's what?
Meant to be like in that bigger size. Because usually, you were saying.
Yeah.
We use it like this.
We're going to shrink it, and I think the point you're getting at is that's going to matter less in the smaller one. It's exactly right. Yeah. Okay. So I think we're okay without the dither. And well, here's another choice. You could say I want to dither only 50%. Okay. And that increased it. Wow. From 11.97 to 12.05. It increased very little. All right, I'm going to leave it like that. Transparency is not going to make that much difference because when Photoshop saves it, there's no transparency in there anyway. But it does make a little bit of difference in size. If you check the box, it's going to make just a slightly smaller file size, 12.05, and with it unchecked, it's still 12.05. So I'm going to leave it unchecked. Web snap, leave it at 0, but what that does, you remember in the old days we had to try to match colors to a web safe palette. Well, you don't need to worry about that so much anymore. Back in the days when the first color monitors only had 16 colors, and then if you were really uptown, you could get a 256 color monitor. You had to be careful which colors you were showing. Now, who cares? So leave web snap at 0. Now, lossy, and this is something else that comes into play if you're showing a small image, like most of the time we will be. You can afford a little bit of lossy, like if you're saving a JPEG. Do you want to save a JPEG at 95% quality, or is it okay to go down to 60%? Well, if your image is only 300 square, 60% is probably okay. So for this one, I'm going to try 25% lossy, and we'll see what happens. Well, it started rendering it when I put the 2. Oh, and there it is. No, it's 25. Okay. All right. Now we're down to 5.885. That cut it by half. Okay, so I'm going to look at it now and compare. And we hadn't even changed the size yet. We cut our size by half, so we're doing good. I can see some degradation, but again, when we get this down to 350 pixels wide, you're not going to see a difference at all. And you could go to 100% lossy if you want just one big pixel showing. I kind of wonder, this is the kind of thing I do at home. Well, I wonder. My wife's calling. I thought you said you were coming to bed 30 minutes ago. Well, okay, I forgot. Sorry. Well, really, the rest of this, leave it at the defaults. Convert to sRGB. Yes, you want to do that. Just because it's more universal. And this is probably, I think, going to be like the web safe colors at some point. It's not going to matter, but for now, sRGB is better. Metadata, you decide if you want the metadata included or not. I don't much care. So I'm going to go 350 on the width. Bicubic, you got your choice of the method of what the interpolation, I guess, as it decreases the size. I leave it at bicubic. And again, I need to fit in view, and we're down to 962K. Not bad. All right, so that's I think our final copy. Let's preview it and see what it looks like. So there it is. So it's pretty small, but it's going to fit in the side panel of a website, and it'll fit nicely in Facebook. Naturally, you want to put this on your Facebook to show people that you went to Lake Tahoe and how cool Lake Tahoe is and all that stuff.
Did you make your cover image with an animated GIF?
I don't know the answer to that, but I suspect no. The cover image on your Facebook, you know, you got the cover image, which is the long one, and then you got your profile picture, which is the thing. I don't think either one of those can be. I don't know for sure, but I don't think so. Yeah.
There's like a standard sizes for GIF, like if it's on a mobile, it's like more smaller, right? When you send text and see those GIF, do we have like a standard sizes on those, or it's just however we look, it looks better?
Right. And web icons too. Used to be only 16 by 16 that you had to worry about. And now with higher resolution monitors, you got to go 16 by 16, 32 by 32, 64 by 64. Any more sizes, or are those the only three? Anyway, yeah. But no, there's no standard for that. So I could go save, and then I want to choose, well, I don't need to choose GIF. The format is images only. It's going to save it as a GIF because I told it to up here. But it's already saved, so I'm not going to save it. Make sure I covered everything I wanted to. Image size, looping, preview. Yeah, we told it to loop 3 times, so we're good.
I have a question.
Okay.
If you wanted just the water to be moving and not those little tiny changes in the surface of the rock and in the sky, can you make a mask for everything but the water and apply it to all but the first image, and would that carry through once it's animated?
And the other thing you could do is that option that says try to align these when it imports them. Do that because they're not aligned right now. You can see they're not. No, I didn't because it would take too long to do it because there's like 48 of them or however many there are. And, you know, something I should have tried at home so I'd know how much longer it takes, but I didn't even try that at home.
These images are JPEGs, right?
Yes.
So then you wouldn't have a mask on a JPEG, would you? It would have to be a Photoshop image.
Right. Yeah. Well, once it's imported here, you could put a mask on it here in the layer.
So I guess I was just wondering if once you put that mask there, does it get exported? Does it all get exported?
It'll be flattened. That's why you need to save the PSD. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. How about we've got a video, and we're just so proud of this video. We want to turn it into a smaller file for one, and we decided that animated GIF is the way to go. And so we have this video of the just the cutest girl you would ever see in your life putting a diaper on her doll. I mean, can you imagine anything more adorable than that? This 18-month-old baby, just the best granddaughter ever. And so this is what it's like. Okay, that's it. And that's only, what is that, 8 seconds? I think it's 8 seconds. Yeah, 8.02 seconds right now. But the whole video was, my daughter shot that. The whole video was, I don't know, 30 seconds. So the first thing to do is you got to decide how long you want. A 30-second video is going to make a tremendously heavy GIF, not just from the file size perspective, but the number of frames in it. Well, we saw one with 240 some odd frames. It was only 153K. So the number of frames alone does not determine file size when you're finished. So, you know, that in itself isn't a consideration. But, you know, it's a thought. The point here is that decide how long you want it and which parts you want, and cut it if you can. You can cut it here if you want. You can edit video in Photoshop, but I just edited it right on the iPhone because it's an iPhone video. But I think the main thing right here is we can crop that. I don't need that top part and the bottom part. So the first thing I'm going to do to that is actually I want to show you. First of all, I'm going to leave this one there, but I want to show you a different way to open it. I just opened that with Control O and open it like I would any image. But if I go into the File menu and I go Import, I can import video frames to layers. And it's going to take the frames of that video right into layers, where you see right there I just got one layer. And I'm going to do that with this one in a minute, so you don't have to wonder how it's going to turn out. I'm going to do both methods, but I wanted to go ahead and show you that now. So I'm going to crop that, and I think let's go with a square crop, 1:1, and there. And as I recall, she didn't use much of that right side frame either.
But she brings the doll up over her head, kind of.
Yeah, it needs to be down like that. I think I'm going to cut off some of Rainbow Bright's hair too. There. All right. I'm just guessing at that doll. I don't. You know, maybe it's Rainbow Bright. Maybe it's not. It's an MOV, but whatever Photoshop can handle MP4s. You know, it doesn't have to be an MOV. So now I can undo the crop, you know, if I don't go too far. So let me play it right now and make sure the crop's okay. I might have cut too much off the right, but so far it's okay. Yeah, that's all right. Let's just go with that. If I was going to sell this, I'd do it differently. But all right, and the next thing is it's right now it's 606 by 606. That's probably a little large, so we're going to lower the file size. So if you open it like that, like I did, just with the Control O or go to the File menu, File, Open. How do you get all the layers and make it a GIF? Well, you save it. Control Alt Shift S. I'm going to save it, and when I save it, I have those options. I'm going to say Animated GIF. It takes a while. Click, click. All right, there we go. 20 meg right now. That's because we're still at 606 pixels. I'm going to go down to 300. And let's see. 20.87 meg. And on this one, you'll really be able to tell the difference in dithering and not. It makes a big difference on skin tones. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can see better. Look at her back. Yeah. See this one, well, that's a JPEG. I'm going to switch to a different method there. I'll go Animated GIF 2 for that one. All right. So this is 100% dither, selective palette, 25% lossy. So I can see a good bit of fuzziness here, but I mean, I think that looks better than this terraced look on her back. You know, kind of looks like contour crop farming there. Yeah, so we're definitely 0% dither. I think is not the way to go in this one, and you can't even generalize and say anytime you have skin tones, you should dither, because I'm going to show you one in a minute that, I mean, it doesn't matter. But anyway, for this one, I think I might back off the, rather than backing off on the 25% lossy, I'm going to back off on the dither and go dither only 75%. Yeah, I can't tell much difference. It's 5.5 meg and this is 6.9 meg. Let me just go back to 100%. 6.6 meg, 6.9 meg. Not much difference in size, so I don't think size is the consideration here. It's only how good we think it looks. Yes, sir. No, I ought to. Um, there's probably a real good explanation. Oh, yeah, look at this. 996633. That tells me it's a web safe color. Look at this one. I bet this is same too. Yep, FF 9900. Same thing. Whereas look at this one too. Well, why doesn't that have a dot then? How about this one? Well, okay, disregard that theory. This one, by the way, that's transparent right there, but why do these have dots? I noticed that too when I went to this like restrictive. They all had dots, I think. Yeah, they all got dots. So maybe that's it. I could look it up, but maybe that's it. That's a good theory, that when you have dots in these, those are the ones that would be in the restricted palette. Okay, so let's see how that looks on the browser. Not bad so far. Yeah, I could live with that. I mean, the whole idea is to put it on Facebook and have everybody tell you what a cute granddaughter you got. So, yeah. All right. Yeah.
So sorry about your granddaughter's skin disease.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Have you checked into seeing a dermatologist? Actually, no. All right, so let's do that. I want to open it the other way that I said I would and show you what the difference is. For one thing, it's going to take longer for it to render the frames into layers, but that's okay. Click open.
So if you were going to bring it in like this importing, would it make sense to open it as a video first and do your cropping and that sort of thing, and then save it and import that one where you've already done sort of some pre-processing to reduce the file size and stuff like that?
I think it's going to depend on the video, but that could, yeah, a lot of times make a difference. Notice one thing here that can make a difference too. The range to import from beginning to end, selected range only. Well, I've already cut out the frames I don't want, so I don't want to do that, but look at here, limit to every 2 frames. This is a 30 frame per second video taken off the iPhone, so I could probably limit that to 15 frames per second, cut out every other one, and I don't think you're going to be able to tell the difference. But imagine the difference in file size. So let's do that. Limit to every 2 frames. And you don't get this option when you open it just directly with file open. So that's a good reason to go for file import. And we do want to make frame animation, of course. That's the whole object of this. And look at the other control you've got here. I can say do only this range, but like I said, we've already done that, so I'm going to say beginning to end and click OK. And wasn't the other one, it was like 3 meg, right, when we finished? Oh, you know what? I've still got it open right here. Yeah, you're right, 6.621 meg. You're right. And
How does that one already have the crop?
well, it had the crop square because it's the same one I used before, and crop was the last tool I used, so that's why it came up. It's not the same crop from the right. I haven't cut it off the right yet, but I am going to cut it off the right less than I did before. All right, so there we go. We're 122 layers, or yeah, layers, frames, whatever, and it's 0.3 of a second. All right, so let's see how that looks. That's just way too fast. All right, yeah, maybe half a second.
Can we just change the duration?
Well, you got to select every frame like that, shift click, and go down here and go, what do I want? I don't want, no, I'm going to go 0.7. Oh, it's 0.03 of a second. Yeah, I don't want that. maybe let's try 1/10 of a second, because we got 15 frames a second now, so it ought to be 7. Yeah, 0.07. Let's see how 1/10 works. Yeah, it is a little slower than it ought to be. All right, so let's go with the 0.07 that I said we needed, and see if that looked. 0.07. All right. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, I'm convinced. So Control-Alt-Shift-S to save. And we know we want 300, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. That'll save us some rendering time when we change the modes up here. Okay, animated GIF is no dither. And how you save this, by the way, save your own preset. Get all the options set the way you want it, and then if you go into the menu and save settings is grayed out right now because I haven't changed anything. But once I start changing things, I'll have the option to save settings, and then you can name it whatever you want. So I named mine Animated GIF and Animated GIF 2.
Okay. About that one, could you go back to the menu?
Yeah.
Yeah. The optimize to file size.
Yeah, that's a good question, and that also leads me into a different optimization I need to point out on the main Photoshop. Optimize to file size lets you choose the size of the file. We had a 6 meg file. Well, if I only want to, right now it says 2 meg. If I want a 2 meg file, let's see what happens. I click OK. Okay, start with current settings. All right, yep. See what happens. Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that. But so all this shows is that for skin tones, it may not be a good idea to limit it that way. But for that first one that had this is a GIF, nothing but white background and black text, that might be a good option to use. So the fact you know is there is important, I think. That's good. All right, so I'm going to go GIF over here, and I'll choose Animated GIF 2 on this one. That's a dither and a loss. 100% dither, 25% lossy. Yeah, not bad. And we're down to 3.775. So let's see how that one looks. Yeah, I think that one looks better than the other one. Yeah, when she shows her back, I think that's fine.
Arms a little odd though. At the beginning. Yeah. See her left.
Oh, right there? Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's so adorable, nobody's going to care. Yeah. You know what she really likes? Well, for one, she likes iPhones, period. But the app on my iPhone she likes the best is Face Swap. Anybody play with that app, Face Swap app? Such a cool app. She likes it, and she likes to choose the skeleton and superimpose the skeleton on her face, and then she'll start laughing, and we'll see the skeleton laugh. And if you've never seen the app, you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, but it's pretty funny. All right, make sure I got everything that I wanted to cover with you. Yeah, the original was 243 frames, by the way. This one cut it exactly in half. Here's another, not here, but what's coming up, I think another legitimate business use of animated GIFs, and that is this, wait a minute, we want to go File, Scripts, load files into Stack, like we did with the Lake Tahoe images, except this time the ones from PowerPoint. So I'm going to go to Folder, and Images from PowerPoint. So what this is, and again, this this is something I found on the web. This is not my presentation, so don't judge. Not up to the standards I would put in it if it were mine, but the points we'll make will be valid. I mentioned earlier when we, not animated, but imported those Lake Tahoe slides. Notice these are in order also, top to bottom, earliest to latest. And here, how many are there? There's 9 of them. Okay, create frame animation. We got 1. And you remember the next step?
Frames, layers.
Yeah, it's over in the menu. Good job. Make frames from layers. Reason I ask you is because I forgot. No. Yeah. Okay. But notice what happened here. Just like the Lake Tahoe when they're backwards. Oh, so man, we got to click and drag. Good thing there's not 243 of them in there. Or wait a minute. Wait a minute. What if we just clicked reverse frames over here? Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's a menu item here, reverse frames. So, and you can select if you only want, and we're going to do that on the next one, by the way. You can select some frames to reverse, and it'll reverse only those. So, now this other one that I said I needed to mention, the other one that you asked about, Donna, was optimized for file size or whatever, optimized to size. This optimize animation gives you some other choices. Optimized by bounding box. What in the world? That just means that if there are pixels used in one, no, that's what we're done at pixel removal. If there's pixels that aren't used in frame 2 that are used in frame 1, then it won't count those pixels and use them, and it's theoretically a smaller size. And bounding box. Oh, I forgot what that does.
Maybe it has to do with what actually moves within the frame, and so it doesn't.
Yeah, it's exactly, yeah, right.
It's only the difference.
The pixels that change. Yeah, all right, good. I'm glad I was honest and didn't try to make something up. Anyway, leave them both checked, and they're good. So click, and those are checked out of the box, but they're not activated until you bring that up and click OK. So even though they were already checked when I opened it, it wasn't optimized yet. So you've got to open it, click OK. Now these two are 0 second. So if I click, look at that, man, that's useless. So look at this is a real estate thing is going on a website, and these are large enough, the text is large enough that it's still going to be readable once we shrink it to 350 pixels. So we're not worried about that. But it needs to be there long enough to be read. So I think 4 seconds might be reasonable. We can start with 4, and then, I'm not really going to play with it that much. But I mean, if this was your website, that's the kind of thing you'd want to do with it, to put it up. And you might want one of them to be 4 and this one to be 6, or they don't all have to be the same. And then now, as I click, it's painfully slow as we get to the next one. So I'm going to leave them all at 1 second, just so it doesn't take forever during the course of this presentation. Now, this is where we're going to use, we don't have to use tweens. I said we're going to use tweens. I spoke out of turn. We don't have to, but I'm going to between slide 1 and 2 just to show the effect. And, we've seen this already, but just to do it again. Frames to add 12. I'm going to add only 10 this time, and tween with next frame, so that's good. So it just kind of faded those in there. A second at a time, though. So, see, that's where you'd want to go back in and go, oh, man, no, I want it to be 1 second transition from one slide to the next in the tween. So now we're going to, okay. So you decide if you want the transition from one slide to the next. It's neither a good thing nor a bad thing. It's just a decision you have to make. So I'm going to just leave those there. Let's see, set looping, save for live, voila. Yes, please. Yep.
It looks like,
The checkerboard?
yeah, it looks like it's both the layers are half transparent halfway.
Yeah, let's see what that does. Right there.
Is it only showing you that because you're in Photoshop and that's how it designates it
It,
transparent?
it could be. Let's look at it in Firefox and see. Of course, I'm going to lower it to 350 first. So it's, there we go. Can't tell. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Let's slow that down a little bit. 0.05. No, I went the other direction. 0.2. All right. All right. Preview. Oops, I forgot to decrease the size, but that's all right. No, no transparency there.
Did it matter that you didn't have the one selected that showed the cubes on your 4-up display?
I had this one.
Yeah,
No, well, this is the original.
okay.
Uh,
So it doesn't have any of those tweeting.
right, yeah.
But it's weird that it has the.
Okay. Well, I got one more. Now this one. Yeah, Karen.
I know you were talking about needing to keep these small, but look how they'll be small. Could an animated GIF, websites that have full screen images like video, like PayPal, would using an animated GIF be beneficial rather than using whatever MP3 or MOV version or webpage?
Quite likely a smaller file size.
That's what I think. And if you don't need it to be complicated.
Right.
Good application.
Yeah, if all you've got is text or, line drawings or something simple, then yeah, I think that it was made for that. Yeah. Well, I mentioned face swap when I hadn't really intended to. It just kind of hit my mind in that part of the presentation. But that's sort of a good lead-in to this because the face swap app uses morphing, and you know what morphing is. It's tweening, really, is what morphing is. So what if we want to morph my head into somebody else's, or somebody else's into mine? You probably wanted to do that when you came today. And so I'm going to give you what you wanted to see. So the first thing I want to do is open this number 14 right here. And there's my son and myself coming back from Japan. A bit younger than we are today, but still, that is us. And I want everybody to see how really I am this guy. And when people see the morphed animation, they're going to go, oh man, I don't know why I didn't see that earlier. So, I'm not going to actually do the Photoshop touch-up right now because we don't need to do that, but what I've done, I've got a different version of this on my computer, but what I've done is I've taken out 3 of the glares on his hair, and I didn't take out the blue tint in his hair, but if I was really touching this up, I would take out the blue tint in the reflection on his hair because of the lights have a different color temperature and so on reflected. And his when you see his color skin tones and mine, they're more different than I changed them to be. So I would change that a little better. What I did was I used the quick selection tool and made a selection and then put it over here. So I'm going to open that one. So I've already done that work, in other words. Nope, not that one. Let's go right here. Downloads, used. Wait just a minute. Oh, choose the right. Here, let's do this. Find them all. Really? Oh. No. I've got it on a morph PSD. There we go. So sample PSD, morph PSD. There it is. So yeah, see, I've already done that, and that's the selection, and then so I clicked and I drug it over, and then this came up, and so I dropped it in, did a transformation, and did the sizing and rotated his head a little bit. And so what we want to do then is to slowly morph this into this, so people will go, wow, wow,
Turn into Elvis.
yeah. All right, so remember the first step is create frame animation. So we've got 2 frames. One of them is nothing but a disembodied head. Anybody been to Graceland, by the way? Been to Graceland? You've seen his grave. He's not in there. And this is why I know he's not in, just a side note, because I mean, I can't imagine a worse tragedy for a parent than to have to bury a child. Maybe some of you have had to do that. I feel for you if you have. I have not. But Vernon Presley was in that unfortunate situation when Elvis disappeared. And so he's in charge of having to do the funeral and the gravestone and so on. This stone, his name is misspelled. If you go to Graceland Day, you look at Elvis's gravestone and it's misspelled. Now, as a parent, if you have a child that's in a grave and the gravestone comes back misspelled, you're going to make that company change the gravestone. Vernon Presley didn't do that. So that's how Elvis isn't there.
Sounds like proof to me.
There you go. That's all I need. All right. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. We've got both frames here or both layers in this first frame. We need to make another frame, so I'm going to duplicate. Click that button right there, and choose our visibility. So on the second frame, we do want both layers visible. On the first frame, we do not. And notice when I deselect on the first frame, I don't know why, but it deselects it on the second frame too. So I got to select that back in. All right, off, on, off, on. Now we could do this, go loop forever, and that just looks kind of goofy. And so what are we going to do we're going to tween them. Yeah. All right, click that. I've been adding 12, so let's add 12. Click, and make sure it gets the right, go halfway. All right, that's exactly what we want. And we've been going 1/10 of a second. I want the first one to be longer and the last one to be longer. So I'm going to go 1 second for the first, 1 second for the last, and then 1/10 of a second for the ones in between. So that's going to be 1.2 seconds because we added 12. 1.2 seconds for the tween part. All right, see how that looks. Okay, awesome. Wouldn't it be good, though, instead of just going Elvis, boom, Bob, to kind of morph back the other direction? What could we do to morph back the other direction? there's two ways we could do it. I could Control Z because I've only done one thing since I tweened those in. I could go back and add frame 1 as frame 3 and do 2 different tweens, or I could just do this. Somebody else said it. Copy these tween frames, click. Now I'm not going to, well, matter of fact, let me click that one too. I'm going to delete it in a minute, but if I duplicate frames, okay, now they're duplicated. So I got to find the one that was Elvis. Okay, that's fully Elvis, that's fully Bob. Now those are backwards. We know how to change that, don't we? All right, but that's fully Elvis. I don't need that. I'm going to delete that guy. All right, so beginning with 15, we're going to reverse them in the menu. Reverse frames. Boom. Pretty cool. So here we go. I'm going to make that bigger than 3. This one has to be at least 400. So let's go with, yeah, it's only 142K because there's only 2 layers in there to begin with. So that's what makes the difference there. Not how many frames you have on the bottom animation panel. It's how many frames you've got in the image. All right, so, well, since it's only 142K, let's go to 600. We want people to see the proof. All right, so there we go. Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, like I said, he disappeared, but most people today don't really know where he disappeared to. And that might have been a clue for you right there. So this is the conclusion of what I had prepared. Any more questions? Or, yeah. Yeah.
If you decided that you needed to have more tweening instances, can you just add them right now? Once you've added the tweets, can you change the number of the tweets?
Not easily because it wouldn't. Because when we tweened before from frame 1 to frame 2, it was a gradual transition. And so you'd have to choose, okay, between these 2 frames, now I want to tween. Between these 2 frames, now I want to tween. You can select more than 1 frame and tween, but I don't think it would give you the result you want. So to do what you're asking, what I would do would be delete it back to only the 2 frames and then go from there. Just add it, or maybe 3 frames. 2 frames, probably. Yeah, yes, sir.
We've been working in squares like all. Can we do like a shape, like a transparency GIF? Or once you export it, like it becomes white the rest.
Well, I understood the transparency part, but I don't know what you're wanting the final product to look like.
Probably like let's say the face of Elvis.
Yeah.
And I guess whatever it's transparency. Well, when we animated that GIF, it's gonna be transparent.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, here's the deal. Let me. I think I've got this saved. I want to show you the saved version of that. No, that wasn't in the folder. But that wasn't in the folder because I wanted that to be a surprise. Plus there's I don't want my image out just indiscriminately anyway. I don't see GIF on here. Let's Photoshop GIF, CompuServe GIF. Oh, all formats. There we go. Choose that. morph.gif. That's it. So yeah, see, notice all these layers here. There's no transparency in any of those layers. And this goes back to what I said on the very first example that said this is a GIF. I mentioned that if you have any adjustment layers or anything, those are going to be flattened. So the same thing with transparency. Theoretically, animated GIF has the capability of transparent animation, but Photoshop doesn't support that. Or if it does, I haven't found out how to make it support it. And I've been through everything I can think of, and it wasn't in Lisa Snyder's article either. So
You try to simulate it if you're putting it against a solid color background by making a background the same color background in your GIF.
Yeah.
And that would simulate it. But
Yeah, one use for animated GIFs is in PowerPoint, and unless you know what the background is going to be, I mean, transparent is the way to go, but you may be limited from that. There are other ways to get animated GIFs, and actually a pretty easy way to do it is, now I warn you, this site is annoying. It's Giphy, Giphy.com. Giphy.com. So you go there and you see all these GIFs, and when you're uploading your own, you've got just a background that is just terrible. See, like if I go to my dashboard, I only have 2 or 3 of them there. So that one there, the banner, that's, yeah. Anyway, upload avatar dashboard. Okay, favorites. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. But anyway, the point of mentioning this is I started with Facebook. If you upload an animated GIF to Facebook, it's not going to display an animation. So I'm actually glad that we got around to this Giphy.com bit, because the only way that Facebook will display an animation in a GIF is if that GIF is hosted somewhere else and you post the link to it on Facebook. You can't go up here and say, okay, I want to upload photo/video and then do it. Matter of fact, I'll do that right now and upload that morph one, and you'll see what it turns out to be. Downloads, animate GIFs, morph.gif, right here. Okay, post, right there. No animation. So disappointing. Even if I click it and so the thing is displayed by itself. Nope. No animation. Oh, so you go, oh man, I saw those animated GIFs on somebody else's page. How in the world? So that's what Giphy is good for. If it's good for nothing else, it's good for this. What I can do, I can upload that morph.gif to there. Okay, drag and drop GIF files. All right, that's what I'll do. It's over here. Morph.gif. There. I think it did it. Yeah, it did. Tags, no source, upload. Okay, and this doesn't cost anything. So, let's see, share. All I want is I don't want this whole thing. iframe embed, advanced. There we go. That's what I wanted. Now if I go back here, this isn't my real Facebook page, by the way. It's just a dummy page I created so I could do this. Paste only the URL in there and go post. That's all you need to do. There we go. Click.
So you have to click it to activate.
No. See, maybe I need to refresh it. Because those other ones that cat surfing was uploaded. There we go. Yeah. Twitter, I don't think is that way. If you twit, I think Twitter displays them just without any special thing. You just upload it. Anything else? We're through a little early. Maybe you beat the traffic home.
I was curious, but if you go back to Photoshop,
Hmm?
and this is, I think this is totally outside scope, but file import, I'm just curious, what's that via support?
Yeah.
Any ideas?
I don't know. Anybody know?
What is it, VI?
The bottom
WIA.
WIA?
Well, no WIA compatible devices. So evidently, maybe that's direct upload from a camera, import from a.
Oh, scanner?
Yeah. All right. All right. That's all right. I thought of something else I can show you too. Go ahead.
This is Photoshop. Can we do this in Illustrator also? This is just for Photoshop.
I think it's just Photoshop. Illustrator expert.
Veronica?
You can't do this in Illustrator, right?
I've never attempted it, so
Yeah.
Does Illustrator have a timeline? That would be
Yeah. I don't think so.
I should do it after Effects.
No, weirdly enough, you cannot import a GIF from After
Oh, really? That is weird.
Huh.
You need to. What I always do is import it in Photoshop and use.
Oh, good to know. I'll probably be
What's
doing
that?
this now. I was thinking you could do it in After Effects. But no.
Text, like if you wanted to treat this kind of like Flash, could you? Make another layer with some text.
Yeah, that's essentially what we had at the beginning. If I go sample PSD, that's what this was. Different layers with text.
But then could you have another row that photos?
Another row with what?
Another row where you have photos underneath that? Or is the text the same?
No, you could do that. Oops. I'm not making a selection here. I'm just doing this. So I could do this like that. See, I got a photo underneath those two layers, or I could move it.
Or are you thinking maybe how the, but then if you wanted the face to change along with the text changing, is that,
Yeah.
Bob, what about, would it be possible, say, to have some animation to the photo, the face, as well as to the text? At the same, simultaneously.
Well, so like here we have a face. So what you're asking, could you add text to this, really?
Yeah, having it on the page as well.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
You
So,
just need to have it on the 2 layers then.
yeah, let me reload that. Morph PSD is the one. So that's the one. By the way, if you you get one of these things, you're finished with it, and you go, I wonder what this would be as a video. Would it be better as an MP4 instead? Well, down here is a button that says Convert to Video Timeline. So if you click that, it converts it to the video timeline, and then you can save it into a video format. And then you go, oh man, I forgot. I don't want it as a video after all. So you go back, and it makes it. Now, if you have, let me go back to a different, yeah, this one here. Video timeline and then back. I'll get this option. Just a warning, convert the timeline to a frame animation, and it gives you timeline keyframes. They're going to be emulated but not preserved. Yeah, okay, I don't care. So you click OK, and then it gives you your animated GIF. So you can make, as you saw, a GIF from a video, and now you know you can make a video from GIF. So let's add some text to that and see what happens. I'm going to just close out that extra stuff before Control-0. So if, yeah, well, you would think. I would think in most cases it would be. I don't know if you could generalize and say it always would be, though. I would hesitate to say that. So I'll go, the king is in the building. And I'm just capitalizing every word just because I can. So there's a good place for it. So what do you want to do with that? You want to maybe
Fade it in with Elvis and out.
Make it go a little bigger.
Well, just have it come in when Elvis comes in. And then when Elvis leaves the building, have it leave too.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, so we're going to have 3 frames then. I think. Do we need 3 frames? I don't know. What are the three frames going to be? First one is just that one. And then if we have only 2 frames, they're that. Let's try a 3rd frame and have only Elvis in there, and then the text. And then a 4th frame with no Elvis. All right. I'm going to see what happens when I select all of those and tween. See? Well, there you go. Now you know what happens. Absolutely zilcho. But what did happen was it deselected. Yeah. See, now my selections are off.
Well, you don't have Elvis, it's turned off.
Oh, yeah, I see what happened here. Yeah. Okay.
So the last,
Right.
the last frame you want everything turned on.
It did tween.
It tweened the text.
It tweened the text, so I don't want
The
that.
text is on all of them.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go back to the beginning and duplicate twice, and that one is going to be him and the text. This one is him only, and then the last one is that. All right, so now we tween. I'll go 10, and so this one now, number 12, tween 10, and here, tween again, 10. All right, let's see what happens. Yay. Okay.
You should have turned the text off on the last one if you wanted it to fade. Before tweaking.
No, I wanted the text on there with me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I just meant for the process, not.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, well, like we said earlier, it's fun to play with. That would be like to label, okay, this was the, with no tweening.
Right.
This, yeah, that would be,
Markers?
that'd be great.
Can you put a marker like you can in After Effects?
And well, in Lightroom's got so many ways you can mark a photo, you know, with different flags and so on. And I don't know of a way to do it here in Photoshop. Automatic, do not. Oh, by the way, the dispose thing doesn't really mean dispose. It just means what happens after I display this in the animation. What happens to this frame? Well, it's automatic. It goes to the next one. And that. I got that on a right click. That's the contextual menu. And generally, you'll not need to mess with that. Yeah. Nothing I see here that I forgot to talk about. Panel options. There's your panel options. Frame thumbnail size. That's it.
That match layer across frames.
What was the question again?
Match layer across
Oh.
frames.
Match layer across frames. Let's find out what happens. Match layer. I bet this, no, I was going to say I bet this requires a selection of multiple frames, but if it did, it wouldn't be black right now, it'd be gray. Let's see what happens. What to match? Okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, it did it. Whatever it did, it did. Yeah, I don't know what it did.
I was thinking maybe like from the Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
It might be something like
I think
that.
what it did is the frame you had selected and the layer you had selected, it applied the transparency to all layers. So the text layer is now not displaying at all.
Oh, okay.
You're correct. It's not. Yeah. Undo indeed. I don't think that undid though. Oh well. That's all right. Okay. What else?
When you import a movie, does it also import the audio?
If you go file open, it will. If you go make frames from, make layers from frames, no.
No audio.
No audio.
Can you add audio?
Not to a GIF.
So you'd have to have it on the video editing timeline.
Yeah, right. And of course the video editing timeline has the audio down there. And when we did the file open and opened that MOV file, it had the audio in it. But it was wiped out when we saved it as a GIF. Okay. I think we're through. So, hope it was useful to you. If nothing else, maybe